When I was about 10 years old, I was robbed. It was my introduction to New York. My aunt had taken me on a conference with her. I was introduced to such phenomena as room service and Broadway shows. And as we were standing on a street corner making our way to one of those shows, walking from the hotel, a pickpocket lifted my wallet out of her purse. He took off down the street, and my aunt took off after him. And I, all of 10 years old, ran as fast as I could along with them. It was an interesting introduction into the way of the world. This did not happen as it does on TV. My aunt did not catch him and dramatically tackle him at, whatever avenue and street we were at. And when we made a report to the police, I got the distinct impression that nothing was going to happen, and my Velcro wallet would not be returning to me with what I had saved for the trip. Justice wasn't coming. It was very unfair. And a week that had begun with me sliding across hardwood floors in a hotel suite was ending on this street corner with my Velcro wallet disappearing. Jesus presents us with this strange parable, a strange story of the way of the world, a dishonest manager engaging in a little selfish debt forgiveness in order to ingratiate himself with those he will soon be joining outside of his master's household. And Jesus, through the person of the Lord, is strangely impressed with this gentleman. Confronted with the circumstances of his situation, this gentleman has learned to work the system. And Jesus wonders, why can't my followers do this? Now, some have interpreted this as, because wealth is dirty and awful, that Christians are hereby given carte blanche to do whatever they want with the dirty tools of the world, because, it can't taint them. This is dishonest wealth, and you are free to do whatever you like. But this is to misunderstand the thrust. Jesus is calling to mind that there is a way of the world, and then there's the way of God in Jesus Christ, a loving intervention into a world where systems are put in place not to save or lift up the lowly, but to be worked by anyone who tries. Jesus is saying that these two worlds are mutually exclusive. And whereas in the worldly world, people respond to their circumstances and improve their condition, Christians aren't as shrewd when it comes to noting their true situation and acting accordingly. We cannot worship God and mammon, have our cake and eat it too, because no one wins while we're all still keeping score. Jesus came to show us a still more excellent way that begins when you stop chasing down all the people who've taken from you. The dishonest steward, as he's called, is a revelation of the idea that people can and do respond to their situation and improve their circumstances. This is an exercise in reciprocity. The dishonest steward is essentially trading land for land. It seems that the dishonest steward, according to many theories, is probably skimming off the top. People are charged and, in effect, taxed to rent land from this lord. And they pay by giving a portion of the proceeds from their work on that land to the Lord. And these are hefty sums. So these are likely corporate arrangements between large households, many servants, and of course that necessitates a steward sitting at the middle of it. He's probably taking an extra little percentage for himself. The manager, realizing that he's skimming off the top, demands an accounting. So we have a guy who's about to be thrown out of his household onto the street, deprived of the very land he maintains. So he makes use of reciprocity. He creates a huge discount for many of the debtors. And if it exercises a little, debt forgiveness, charging half or a discounted 20%, and then says, just change the bill, because that's how contracts work. When you have a debt, it's in the hands of the debtor. They write the contract, and that guarantees. So he tells them to change it, and as long as it's changed, then that's what the master has to abide by. And so the man has essentially bought himself a new house. When he's kicked out, they have to reciprocate what he did for them. He's given them, in effect, land. So they have to give him land, a house. He's secured his future with a little bit of dishonesty and some debt forgiveness, which we all pray for in the Our Father. Jesus is impressed. The Lord is impressed because he saw his situation and did something about it accordingly. Even if it was a little dishonest, it's impressive. He sees the system for what it is and then works it. That's amazing. Jesus wonders why Christians seem to have trouble doing this. And I think it's because Christians perhaps hold this faith in reciprocity more than they do in Jesus. Our faith is an instrumental and transactional one. You get out what you put in. There is a system, an economy, and it's a fair one. You do the right things, you will be rewarded. You do bad things, you get punished. And we have a tremendous American faith in our own efforts. And we have expectations about what can be expected of us and what should be expected of others. And that faith permeates our churches as much or more than that other strange economy that Jesus introduces. If we wonder why Episcopalians sometimes have trouble maintaining buildings, starting new ministries, or proclaiming the gospel vocally and authentically, perhaps it's because we confuse these means for the ends of our ministry. We don't see buildings as the locus for faith. We see it as the faith itself. Our ministries are not about involving others. They're about showcasing self. Our gospel is not proclaimed so much as hoarded for one's own self. There is a system in spiritual things, and it can be worked. We are the primary agents of a strange and wonderful economy, and so we are dishonest stewards. And we construct our churches, our ministries, and our gospel message accordingly, featuring ourselves rather than the one who came to save us. There is a system, and Jesus wonders, speaking not only to the crowds, but particularly to his disciples, how is it that when it comes to the way of the world, we are so ready and able to see where we fit and how to move ourselves forward. But when it comes to Jesus's generous act of love, his intervention into the world, we suddenly have a lot of questions and can't see as clearly. Why is it that Christians are still, Mormons and Jehovah's Witnesses are still knocking on doors, but that guy who wants to talk to me about my non-existent extended warranty has my number on speed dial? Why is it that the Sunday cathedrals of Division I football stadiums are far more impressive than the buildings we gather in to worship the Almighty? You begin to figure out that this faith is not the only one that's operative on Sunday. The economy of reciprocity, of karma, of justice as we've conceived it holds sway within these four walls. And Jesus has the idea. Why is that? How is it that we can't respond with the same cleverness and shrewdness that the most dishonest of stewards can somehow muster? Where did our creativity go? When did we get the idea that this was a system we had to work, rather than a God who worked with and for us? I have a homework assignment for you. Practice a little debt reduction this week. Whether it's a literal debt or a metaphorical injury, forgive a debt this week. Jesus comes to free us from the demands of these systems. You and I find ourselves robbed in ways large and small. We come to the big city, the big church, the big government, the big healthcare, big institutions larger than ourselves, and we are injured. People hurt other people. Ideas hurt other people. Institutions are leveled, built against us. Jesus introduces that song from the Psalms. He comes to lift the poor up from the ashes. In the letter to Timothy, he gives himself as a ransom for all. Jesus is asking us not to work a system, but to transcend it and even forgive it. We have permission to seek justice. Indeed, we're bound to seek out what's fair and right and true and good. And we are free to run down all those things that injure us and injure others. But Jesus comes and says, can you respond to this new circumstance in which someone comes as a ransom for all? Are you ready to forgive? You have been given permission not to work a system in any way you see fit, but to stop having to work those systems. You don't have to chase down the people who've injured you. You have it in you to forgive small and to forgive extravagantly. So if you'd like to continue in this world of measured, calculated reciprocity, you are free to do that. But if we're going to live into the forgiveness Jesus gives us, then we need to practice those tiny acts of forgiving. To take the bills that others are holding and rewrite them. You can stop running after those who've wronged you. Once upon a time, when I was about 10 years old, I was robbed. And we chased them down, and they took my little Velcro wallet. I never got it back, but I didn't mind. No one was hurt. And we had a show to get to. You and I have been hurt in ways large and small. But we don't have to work systems to get justice. Our justice is found in Jesus Christ. We can forgive. We have a show, you and I, to get to. Amen.